What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Form Check Friday. We are here in space, and this is the series wherein we take your guys' and gals' videos. What?
Oh, fuck, you did change the background. I thought maybe...
I did change the background. Dylan has no faith in me. We take your user-submitted videos, we put them up on the screen behind me. I'm gonna draw some yellow lines all over them and try to critique everybody's technique and help everybody become more efficient lifters. Now, if you're interested in getting featured on Form Check Friday, you can go ahead and submit your videos to formcheckfriday@gmail.com. Any other emails, unfortunately, if they go anywhere else, we won't check them. We have, what did I go through today? About 560 submissions. So it's by random number generator. We choose 5 every week. And if the RNGesus smiles on you, then you will be chosen. And if not, our apologies. We just can't get to everybody. Without any further ado, we're gonna dive right into this and take a look at our first submission here. So our first submission of the day comes from Lewin. He says he's an aspiring powerlifter. He's currently doing a simple Doug Hepburn 8x3 and 3x8 program. I'm not familiar with that, but okay. This was the last set of the 8x3 program. His current max is 385, and 315 for 3 reps is what's shown in the video, about 81% of his max. All right, Lewin, let us see here. Turn off the volume. Get this over on the right screen for us all. And we're gonna take a look at this. Looks like he's setting up for sumo deadlift here. I missed the first rep because I was checking to see if my face is in the way. I think this is a triple, should be. All right. Interesting. All right, so the biggest thing here is I think you can pull yourself into a bit better position before you initiate the lift. Now let's see if we can just go frame by frame. Oh, no, that's 10-second intervals. Anyways, here we go. We can kind of scrub through like this. So when you initiate the pull, we'll just note this back position here. Let me see if I can get this. So right about like this. Now, when you start the pull, watch how the back position changes into more extension here. So we can see there's a little bit of that thoracic extension that's not coming until after the bar comes off the floor. So it's clear that you're able to get into a good position. And here again, the bar starts moving about here. And then as we pull, the first thing that happens is we pull into more extension. So basically what I'm saying is pull that extension before you start pushing the bar off the floor. Generally speaking, we don't want to be adjusting the position in that first part of the range of motion. So here, take a quick second before you start pushing with your legs, pull that last little bit of extension right there, and I think that will make your pull a little bit. See how the first movement to get the bar off the floor is this like shift in position, and that extension is almost starting the bar off the floor, not leg drive. See? Hips stay the same, so we're not extending at the knee or the hip. We can see the hip angle and the knee angle very crudely there anyways. And the first thing, the bar's moving, and neither of those have really changed. What changed was that we got more extension through here. So really good positioning. It does look like once you've kind of got the bar moving, we're pushing, the hip angle is staying the same. We're working with knee extension predominantly, which is another thing that we often look for. But we're starting the bar off the floor by pulling the upper back through. So pull the upper back through before you start the pull. And I think that will help. So our next submission here comes from Robert Wilson. And when his name popped up earlier, I started singing the Bare Naked Ladies. If anybody's familiar. Brian Wilson, I believe, was the song, but a little throwback for anybody who's in the know. All right, so this is a single rep. It looks like 370. Let's see here. So first off, the descent is just a little bit wonky. So what we're seeing here is we don't really get a change in torso angle. We're breaking at the knees first, right? So we're breaking at the knees first, which means that as we come down, watch his torso angle, how it kind of stays the same, and then we get to this point where we hit sort of our maximum ankle flexion. So the knees probably won't move any further forward from there. But what's gonna happen is this upper back, this torso angle's gonna change to like that, right there. So you're forced to sit back, and that upper back and the load itself is forced to shift as you approach the bottom of the squat. Also, clear this all out of the way for a sec. This is a little bit high. So we're looking for this line here is what we're looking to get this part here below. And you can see that the crease of the hip is above the top of the knee right now. So looks like it's a little bit shy of depth. And the other thing I would do is I would try to allow that torso to lean a little more when you're initiating the squat, because see how there's this shift right about here. You're upright, 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 and then the back shifts. Upright, 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 and then the back shifts forward. And what I mean by that is that the back angle is changing. And what happens there is we get kind of pushed forward into this position where we're struggling to try to keep the bar in position. And then as you ascend, you're really struggling to try to extend and get back upright. So I think the big thing here is to embrace the lean. Start with more of a lean, sit into it, allow yourself to lean forward, and allow yourself to stay a little bit more pitched forward out of the hole, because that fighting for extension here is what's slowing that down a lot. Yeah. So push hips back a little bit more to start. Sit straight down from that point. And as you extend, allow yourself to stay just a tiny bit pitched forward. Don't fret, don't panic too much. If you're a little bit pitched forward, keep those hips back behind you. And let's avoid that bit of shifting, as well as a little bit more depth. Hopefully that all makes sense for you, man. Next, we have Michael Fennon. He said he would love a form check on his sumo deadlift. So let us take a peek. All right, Michael, what do we got here? Pretty solid, man, pretty solid. So we're getting good depression of the shoulder blades here. We got a pretty sort of long trunk here, which can make this a little bit difficult sometimes, because you can see he's kind of limited in how upright he can get, but the back looks really locked in, which is a good thing. If anything, I would probably fight to get a little bit more back extension, so to get a little bit more extension through the upper back there, but this looks really efficient, really sort of well done. So despite the fact that he's maybe a little bit over the bar, you can see this start position right here-ish. Yeah. So what I think the biggest thing you can try to do is, I know you're getting good depression here, but in order to get those down more, if we can get a little bit more extension here, whoops, that was a little weird, but a little bit more extension, there we go, to help seat those shoulder blades down, and just kind of tighten up that back position. But honestly, as he comes off the floor, yes, hips raise a little bit, so that's about where we're starting from, right? So the shoulders have kind of come out over the bar. But knee extension, back angle's not changing. Knees lock, hips through. Same thing here. Start position drifts just a little bit, but he doesn't lose the back, doesn't lose back positioning. Shoulders go a little far forward, but again, knee extension, hips through. So there's a lot of really good things here. I think over time I would fight to get a little bit more sort of back behind the bar and a little bit more upper back extension. But overall, I think this looks really good, really smooth. And the other beautiful thing is that your back angle isn't changing throughout. Yes, we have a little bit of flexion. Yes, the shoulders are a little bit forward over the bar, but we're not losing our position as we go through it. So that's a really good, or really big thing. This next one comes from George, and it looks like in the thumbnail this might be sumo deadlift as well. All right, George, let's see what you got, man. Missed that first one. So that looks pretty solid to me. Good back position. Again, we're going mostly sort of knee extension to start off with, which is something that we often look for and critique. Shoulder position looks pretty tight there. Yeah, this looks quite good, man. A lot of patience off the floor. You can see it takes a second to go, but he doesn't really lose this position. So let's just try to like mimic some of the curve of his back here, and maybe the top of the knee. Wow, I'm getting good at drawing with a pen, you guys, or with a mouse. Sorry. So as he starts, yeah, maybe we get a tiny little bit of shift, but I'd say that's within sort of the acceptable range of how much shifting we're going to see. I think even I shift a little bit. But to only move those like couple centimeters before the bar comes off the floor, it's all knee extension, shoulder position kind of stays nice and tight over the bar. So that to me looks quite good. My advice here is probably going to be just keep doing what you're doing. I don't know if we started to slide there and needed to wipe off his slipper or something. Yeah, real solid, man. I don't know how many reps he does here. This looks like a long friggin' set. Solid set of 8. So let's see what starts to break down as we get later into this set and a little bit more fatigue. Maybe we'll see a few more errors. Not really. We lost a little bit of shoulder position on that one. We saw the shoulders kind of just creep forward a tiny little bit, but you're doing a set of like 8 or 10 deadlifts here, so it's kind of unsurprising. So again, that's a really great example of being patient off the floor. It would have been a lot easier for him to get it off the floor if he just like let this go and round it out. Let this go more like. Would have been way easier for him to get off the floor. But what he does is he fights and fights and fights and holds position until it starts moving, and then he's able to kind of snap through it, lock out, and have no issue with that. So mostly, George, I think just keep doing what you're doing, man. That looks really, really good. Your technique, I would say, is sound to the point where probably most of the technique changes you're going to get from here are going to be sort of like auto-regulated. They're going to be things that you feel more than things that people can see. And those will create changes over time, but it's not going to be a big thing like a lot of the suggestions I'm able to give on here. Your technique looks quite good. So, our last one here comes from Max. He says he's been trying to stay more upright when he squats because he feels his low bar position, he's angled too far forward at the bottom and ends up losing tightness and proper positioning in his low back. I haven't noticed any pain in my low back with this positioning, even though I've been squatting 2-3 times a week for almost a year now. I've heard stories of people having to relearn how to squat when they get to 500 plus pounds because of back issues, which if I keep pushing will hopefully be right around the corner for me, the 500 pound mark, not the back pain part. This clip is a 4th set of a 5x5 with 385. Cool. And max. So I think that I don't think that people need to necessarily relearn how to squat when they hit 500 pounds. I think a lot of people get injured around that strength level, and I think that's probably not that abnormal for people to just get injured after spending a lot of time powerlifting. Like, these things happen. So this to me looks quite good. I think we're probably maybe even extending a bit much, but it looks like you're able to, maintain that position pretty well. So yeah, the big thing here is I think you're really fighting, you're going like into a bunch more extension here. See how we're like really kind of arching as we descend? What I would ideally, or at least get you to experiment with, is trying to tuck those ribs down a little more, so we're a little more kind of like straight through, if that makes sense, instead of being more oriented like this. And I think that's going to make your back feel a little bit more rigid, a little bit more stable. I don't think that it's necessarily going to be an injury mechanic if you're super upright like this, but I do think it's detracting from your efficiency because you're putting a lot of focus in trying to be super stacked in the back. Also, we're maybe a little tight on depth there. And a lot of times if people are really overextended, they create this kind of false tension in the bottom and end up cutting it a little bit higher than they otherwise could have or should have. As well, when you're pulling into that much extension and you're that extended, as soon as you start to ascend, we're having this moment where we're having to try to fight to maintain that position because it's a little bit outside of maybe where our natural, so we're getting that little bit of a dip forward. All in all, I would say that's definitely a very passable squat technique. I don't think that that's anything that needs major overhauling. I would try to practice bracing a little bit differently. Allow yourself to lean, because that's the position you're ending up in there anyways. Watch how we go from really extended to a more neutral position as soon as we change directions here. So really extended, more neutral position. So here we are a lot more straight through the trunk, whereas here on the descent, we're a lot more extended through the trunk. Hopefully that makes sense visually for everybody. But what happens when we overextend like that in certain populations is we end up losing that extension, which creates a shift in the torso, which shifts the weight, which is an energy leak, which means that you're not performing as efficiently as possible because things are shifting and changing in your trunk as you go through the lift. So I would say try to recreate that position you're in on the way up, on the way down, so that you're consistently locked in through the trunk and consistent in the torso position, as opposed to having that shift and that moment of change in the bottom, which is that's what's going to throw you off, if anything. And I think that's it for today, guys and gals. So I want to thank everybody for joining along with us here today. Hopefully everybody got something out of it and enjoyed listening to my sweet, soothing tones talk you through some powerlifting. Again, if you guys are interested in submission, the email is formcheckfriday@gmail.com. And stay tuned for a lot more great content. And thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.